I'm Mike Regensberger.
Any views or opinions expressed on KUR are not necessarily those of Kutztown University, Kutztown University Student Government, Kutztown University Student Services Incorporated, KUR staff and management, or other affiliated organizations.
He fires, and it is good for a touchdown. It's gone! And Giroux's got it! And the Sixers have scored 9 in a row. Are you kidding me?
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Tyler Werner Show, broadcasting right here on Kutztown Radio, the radio voice of Kutztown University. It was a beautiful day today. How about the weather today? I mean, a nice late October day, and it's got the 70s today, and unfortunately heading into this weekend, that's all going to change by Saturday. When there's actually a chance of snow Saturday, but in the world, as far as the world of sports goes, I mean, Philadelphia sports. Obviously, we're coming off of a golden opportunity this past weekend for the Philadelphia Eagles down in Arizona. By golden opportunity, I mean in the case of this game, opportunity after opportunity to solidify themselves as a possible Super Bowl contender. And looking around the rest of the conferences, what happened, which we'll get into in a little bit. You see what happened in the rest of the conference this past week, and I mean, essentially, all the people obsessed with talking about power rankings, which has been, it's been past few weeks. That's definitely been a recurring topic on the Tyler Werner Show. You look at what's been going on. I mean, essentially, had the Eagles beaten the Cardinals this past week, I mean, they would essentially have the best record in the entire NFC. I mean, if you want to look at it that way, and but you look at the so many opportunities in this game that they had to win, and not only win at the end of the game, but I mean, to even be ahead by perhaps 21-7 at halftime instead of 7-7 at halftime, and keep it a competitive game throughout the rest of the second half. A lot of game full of missed opportunities, no question. Obviously, you look at how Nick Foles played. You look at, some questionable decisions at the end of the game, which, will obviously that'll be the bulk of the conversation today on the Tyler Werner Show, this topic. But I want to, obviously heading into this game, there were some, a couple injuries, obviously, coming off of that New York Giants game. And one of the key injuries, obviously, was Darren Sproles, who perhaps he's going to play this coming weekend against the Houston Texans down at Houston. But it was interesting. I was over the bye week. Well, I guess this was after last week's edition of the Tyler Werner Show, so I wasn't able to. I wasn't aware of this audio. About 30 seconds I want to share. That it kind of it illustrates something about Nick Foles, and I think personally, and he basically really sticks up for Darren Sproles in the New York Giants game, obviously before the bye week, a couple weeks ago, that I wanted to have ready here to share in a moment. It is essentially Nick Foles mic'd up during the New York Giants game, and then, upon hearing about this last week, it was news to me that he was mic'd up in the first place for that game. But it's like a short little montage or montage, however you want to pronounce it, of audio from when Darren Sproles got injured, and kind of Nick Foles' thoughts. He's like, Foles was complaining to the referee about what happened to Darren Sproles on the play, and at the end of it, at the end of this, little segment of audio I'm going to share in a moment, when Sproles gets up on his own power, if you remember back in that Giants game, it kind of, Foles is cheering him on. So I want to play this audio that, to me, it kind of illustrates, at least definitely in Foles' mind, that he was missing a key element of the team's success so far this season. At least, definitely in the first couple of games, that kind of dug him out of a hole in both those games against AFC South opponents, and perhaps it illustrates a little bit that Nick Foles missed having Darren Sproles out there. So let me play a little bit of this mic'd up, I guess this condensing of audio from Nick Foles. It's actually a little comical, so let me fire it up right now.
Oh, what the hell?
And it looks like Sproles is shaken up.
Man, get off him.
He is slow getting up.
Then that's not a guy that you want to see injured.
You see that?
I did.
Can't bend the dude backwards.
Whistles, man.
Yeah, we'll call something on him. You can't bend the guy backwards and break his leg. You can't bend the guy backwards.
I know that.
This guy is a special dude right here.
I know it.
You knew he knew that? That pisses me off. That's my teammate.
And Sproles is on his feet, walking off under his own power.
There you go, Sproles. There you go, Sproles.
He is a tough little guy.
All right, so that's about 35 seconds or so of condensed audio from that Giants game when when Sproles went down. And I mean, obviously, I cut up a couple little sound bites that are going to be out of that segment there that'll certainly be in heavy rotation here on the Tyler Werner show.
What the hell?
Yeah, as long as Nick Foles is in town here, as a quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles. But I mean, Sproles gets up then after that, his knee gets bent awkwardly, and Sproles begins to get up, walk off on his own power, and then you heard Foles kind of cheer on Sproles as he's heading off to the locker room.
There you go, Sproles.
Yeah.
There you go, Sproles.
Yeah, as if Sproles was getting down to the end zone for a touchdown. Foles sounded thrilled as to the fact that Sproles was getting up on his own power, heading back to the locker room, that he was essentially okay, I guess, and that he wasn't seriously hurt. Now, unfortunately, he didn't play this past week against, fast forward 2 weeks later against the Arizona Cardinals, a tough, legitimate contender in the NFC now. Obviously, record-wise, the only team that has one loss in the NFC right now. So, obviously, heading into this game, first and foremost, Nick Foles especially, I think, missed having Darren Sproles out there. Because, again, I mean, early on in the season, there's been a couple occasions where, had Sproles not been on the field, I wonder if the Eagles would have won in the first place, and if that would have erased some of the bad play that Nick Foles has had. I know I sound like I might be foreshadowing a little bit of the tone of this show, that it's going to be a day where I sit here and I talk so much, talk down about Nick Foles in this, and I'm not, just ahead of, I'll get this out right now. I'm hoping not to, I guess turn anyone to the idea that, I think Nick Foles is a bad quarterback or whatever, or that he's not, quote unquote, the guy. I like Nick Foles. I like listening to his press conferences, and I like his attitude. But clearly, and especially in this game, again, I don't know whether this season it's just defense is adjusting to him or whatever. But, so far this season, I mean, he's been, well, obviously Moore's been put on his back, and especially this game. But, obviously maybe it hurts him that they haven't had Deshaun Jackson out there. I know, after the Giants game, people are saying, some people say, maybe they don't need Deshaun Jackson out there, or, the kind of game Macklin had against the Cardinals here, people might say the same thing, but, still, I mean, you don't have Darren Sproles out there who, when he is out there, he's a guy to be accounted for, whether he's getting the ball or not. And, again, I mean, other than that, I mean, they don't really, I mean, you look at Macklin and Riley Cooper, I wonder what it'd be like if they had Deshaun Jackson and Jeremy Macklin out there in the receiving core. And then, of course, you got Jordan Matthews in the slot. But, I mean, a lot of disappointment coming out of this game. And, I mean, if there is a bright side here you want to look at it, I mean, obviously one aspect of it is, they almost, I mean, they should have beaten the Arizona Cardinals. I'm going to, I'll just say that right now. They had, so many opportunities, and, it's just a shame that, we're sitting here with a loss. And I know it's, you go down the schedule in the beginning of the season, and, a lot of people had this game as a loss to the Arizona Cardinals. But, then you watch the game and you see how close they were to, putting it together at the end. You see how they could have been ahead 21-7 at halftime, and it's obviously, it's obviously a very disappointing loss. I mean, it's one thing, going down the schedule and checking it off as a loss, but that's another thing to watch the game happen and then to, see a 6-1 record right there in your grasp, and essentially a number one power ranking in the NFC. It's just a shame. But again, I mean, they went toe to toe with a great team that they probably should have beaten, seeing as how some things played out, and seeing as some mistakes that were made. Definitely really hampered the Eagles at winning this game, and that's a shame. But again, on another positive note, I guess you could say, how about them Cowboys last night? Again, I mean, we just the Eagles, they just lose to the again, a game that maybe they should have won, but they lose to the essentially now the number one team in the NFC. But here last night on Monday Night Football, well, the Cowboys were a 9-point favorite or something at home, and this and that. They had their third string quarterback out there, Colt McCoy, for the Redskins playing. That's like our their version of Matt Barkley. What Matt Barkley is to us, that's basically what Colt McCoy is here to them. And Colt McCoy goes 25 for 30. He threw an interception, but other than that, he played a pretty darn good game for a third string quarterback against in Dallas, against this Dallas team that everybody was kind of revering as like, oh, their defense is playing well, and they're not so bad after all. And I mean, it was a low scoring game. It came down to overtime, 20-17, but this looked a little more like the Dallas Cowboys that we're more familiar with in recent years. And not only that, I mean, Tony Romo in this game, I mean, he gets sacked at one point in the game, obviously, which is, kind of what the big news surrounding this game is how he gets sacked on that one play by, the Washington defender. And in the process, the defender's knee kind of goes into Tony Romo's back, and it was a brutal looking sack there, and Tony Romo would have to go to the locker room then to be evaluated on his back after that. And I guess, they had him take a painkiller or whatever. They had Brandon Whedon come out to kind of fill that spot for a little, which, he did an all right job of, I guess you could say. And and then later on, Romo comes back out on the field, essentially doesn't really warm up at all. And, the Redskins are kind of taking a look at that, and what do? They continue to blitz the heck out of Tony Romo, and, and then you see him get sacked really hard again, and, regardless of Tony Romo's, status, I guess, the status of his back, which, I haven't heard anything yet, but, maybe I'll take a little research into that, and maybe we get an update on that, because that's a big situation to monitor. You're talking about Tony Romo and quarterbacking the Dallas Cowboys. But, I mean, it just, you see him take hits like that, and you see, teams game plan him more, and they got the Arizona Cardinals coming up this coming weekend. I just wonder if Tony Romo's going to be able to make it through the season. I'm not advocating that, people try to purposely injure Tony Romo or whatever. I'm just trying to be realistic here. And, the same thing kind of goes for DeMarco Murray. I mean, you saw last week, when the Cowboys took on the Giants, I mean, you kind of saw him, kind of rough up his ankle a little bit on the, the grass and on nobody. So, I mean, and Murray's had a history of getting injured himself, so, I wonder, again, if he can last the whole season. I mean, DeMarco Murray had a great game. I mean, he had over 200 all-purpose yards, and yet the Cowboys were only able to put up 17 points against this Washington defense that, other than last night, has been pretty bad most of the year. So, you look at that, and they're playing against Colt McCoy and the Redskins, and, obviously there's got to be some concern down in Dallas right now. Hopefully the Eagles, the Eagles, though, we worry more about what the Eagles can do and controlling their own destiny here, if you will. We'll talk about a lot of, the things I saw in that game. Again, it was a headache. Obviously, you had the officials that, maybe some people would joke were the MVP of the game, and kind of, and all the calls they made and this and that. But I'm not gonna really go there today. I'm not gonna be a guy that blames officials and this and that, because again, I saw so many things that the Eagles could have done here. So many things that if they had not fumbled the football or not thrown the silly interception or challenged, this play or called this play here or there. I mean, it's, there's so many missed opportunities here that had they cashed in on them, I mean, they essentially would have won the game for the most part. And that's mostly me, speaking towards the things that happen on offense. I didn't even get to defense yet, but we will get to more of that on the Tyler Werner Show today. Now, before we hit to the first break, let me deliver one of these from the KUR Notebook messages here. Attention, KU community. The KU cheer team is holding a designer bingo on November 2nd at 2 p.m. at the Kutztown Fire Hall. Tickets are $10 for 5 games. There will be great designer prizes, food, and raffles. This message of community interest brought to you by the radio voice of Kutztown University, KUR. So yeah, there you go. You got the KU cheer team in charge of that.
Hey, woman!
All right, so way to get in the show today, 610-683-4859, or at facebook.com/Tyler Werner Show, or at Tyler Werner Show on Twitter. And I forgot to mention also, since it is an Eagle, we're coming off an Eagles loss, it is a Time's Yours Tuesday.
Time's yours.
Right here in the Tyler Werner Show, and we'll be right back after this.
We're Cub Pack 180, and you're listening to KUR.
Psst. Yeah, it's me, your heart. Listen to me. We've got to talk. High blood pressure is serious, and yours? Whoa. What happened to us? We used to be so much more active. But lately, you've been ignoring me. I know you think I'm just gonna keep ticking away forever, but you're wrong. You can do so much more to control your high blood pressure. Doing the minimum isn't doing enough. I'm under a lot of pressure and can quit whenever I want. Bet you didn't know that. But I like my job. Just treat me better. Check on me. Give me something green to nibble on every once in a while. And maybe we can do some exercise on occasion. Let's get to it. After all, we're in this together.
Listen to your heart. Don't let it quit on you. High blood pressure can lead to a stroke, heart attack, or death. Get your blood pressure to a healthy range before it's too late. Find out how at heart.org/blood pressure. Check, change, control. A message from the American Heart Association, the American Stroke Association, and the Ad Council.
It is 6:25 right here in the Tyler Werner Show today on Kutztown Radio, and as I just mentioned, it is a Time's Yours Tuesday. As that's kind of a little, I guess, tradition here. Share your thoughts, your questions, and some people have joked that this game, in some senses, I mean, the Eagles Nick Foles threw 62 passes in this game, which some people would joke that seems like a something you'd see out of the Andy Reid era.
It was like sweet sour pork.
Yeah, and they're speaking of Time's Yours and Tuesday and all that. But actually, it's hard to believe, but there was never a game when Donovan McNabb or Michael Vick or any quarterback in the Andy Reid era for the Philadelphia Eagles, there's never a game where any of them threw 62 passes in a game, which, it's quite hard to believe here. Now, obviously heading into this game, I mean, the statistic was that the Arizona Cardinals, they had the number one ranked running defense heading into this game. So, now, I think the first half they ran LaShawn McCoy only 7 times. Obviously, they didn't have Darren Sproles here. So it looks like they dressed Chris Polk here because and this was one of the things in the Giants game a couple weeks ago. Once Sproles went down, and as Foles would say, Sproles got bent backwards or whatever.
What the hell?
Yeah, and was not happy about that. Essentially, LaShawn McCoy was then the only running back dressed for the team because Chris Polk at the time was, once again rehabbing his hamstring injury or whatever he was rehabbing, and but the bye week certainly, I guess, helped him be able to come back and make his return in place of Darren Sproles. But, I mean, obviously, the styles of the two running backs are very different here. And, they did give Chris Polk a few touches, and especially late in the game on that last, I guess I should say second to last drive, or whenever it was, before the Cardinals would then go down, score a touchdown on a long touchdown pass play. But, as far as the running game goes, I mean, obviously LaShawn McCoy had his bust-out game against the Giants a couple of weeks ago, about 150 yards in that game. And here, I mean, against this number one ranked Cardinals defense, I thought he ran pretty well again. He had some good runs. Obviously, the Cardinals defended LaShawn McCoy well, and there were a couple of plays where maybe LaShawn McCoy tried to do too much and he paid for it. But I mean, I think the rest of the runs he had kind of evens out. And he had some good runs, and he still he kind of looked like himself. He kind of looked like the LaShawn McCoy last year. So I mean, I'd say he's back on track. And again, against this rushing defense that was number 1 in the league heading into this game, obviously that's going to be a tough defense to run against. But to throw the ball 62 times in this game, I mean, might on the surface seem a little outrageous. And overall, I mean, Foles had 26 incompletions on those 62 passes. I mean, Foles had 2 interceptions, 2 pretty bad interceptions, I might say, and they weren't. And the frustrating thing is, they weren't interceptions that we're accustomed to seeing from Foles, where he's getting pressured and I don't know, like some interceptions this year, he's under pressure, and instead of taking the sack like he did last year, which is something that the coaching staff wanted him to stop doing, taking these sacks. Instead, now he's getting rid of the ball, but oftentimes he's getting picked off this season, and that's obviously that's cost him several times. But his interceptions here in this game, I mean, the first one was, first of all, the first turnover here in the game for the Eagles, one of them that could have been a touchdown here. Josh Huff, who they brought into the mix again, another guy who's battling injuries early on in the season. They bring him out, and it looked like he was making a play. He was about to get to the end zone inside the 5, and then fumble from behind. Again, I mean, this is the NFL, and you gotta make sure you're carrying the football, protecting it, and not carrying it like I guess like a loaf of bread sticking out of your arm or whatever. Like some guy, sometimes LaShawn McCoy is a little guilty of that. But he had, he didn't fumble in this game or anything. So I'm not. He protected the football well, but and Bryce Brown, that was one of the reasons. The Eagles, for the Eagles getting rid of him, he had fumbling issues, and even though he made a couple big plays, and at the end of the Andy Reid era, and when they brought him out, and he's fumble prone, and that's Josh Huff needs to better protect the football here. And other than that, I mean, Josh Huff didn't do a whole lot in this game. And that was a key turnover that the Eagles got burned for. That could have been 7 points right there. Even if he didn't get in the end zone that play, I mean, on that drive they were rolling, and I'm sure they could have easily have gotten into the end zone with that fresh set of downs then. The way they were moving the football there. Now, again, a little later on, you had the Foles interception. Antonio Cromartie, Antonio Cromartie got both of Nick Foles' interceptions in this game, but he was going for Josh Huff, and he totally telegraphed it. I guess didn't see that one of the best cornerbacks in the league was right there, ready to he was well aware of the. He was looking right at Nick Foles. I think when Nick Foles was getting rid of the ball, and he was in front of Josh Huff, and he's got a lot of ability. So Foles looking for Josh Huff, and gets picked off by Antonio Cromartie, and Antonio Cromartie, then proceeds to He doesn't just stay in the end zone. He actually starts running it out, and it was actually a good thing for him that he did. I mean, he actually got well past the 20 after that with the ball, and so I mean that was a shame. So right there you have it. I mean, you could have been up 21-7 at halftime, because I mean they were right there in the end zone essentially. On both opportunities, and points well, they weren't really points going the other way, but 14 points right there that you essentially missed out on in that first half. And I mean, again, had they been up like that at halftime, I mean, that may have changed the dynamic in the second, the play calling in the second half a little bit. But unfortunately, things didn't go that way. Now, the other interception, a little later on, this is one that I don't, Riley Cooper's coming across on a slant route. And, Nick Foles, I mean, he has, it seems like he has all the time in the world. The offensive line was, once again, pretty good in this game, even still down a couple of guys. This was a tougher defense that they were facing against, and then the New York Giants defense, I think. But, Nick Foles has plenty of time here. Riley Cooper coming across on a slant route. And, I mean, this is the kind of throw that, Nick Foles should be able to make in his sleep. And he throws it, he throws it behind Riley Cooper on a slant route. You cannot underthrow a slant route. I mean, you have to know, this is basic fundamentals here. You have to know, obviously you have to put the ball so that the receiver catches it in stride. And I mean, this is a basic throw here for Nick Foles to make that, again, he should be able to make in his sleep. And essentially what happens is he underthrows he throws it behind Riley Cooper. And oftentimes the idea of a slant route is to, quick cut across and leave the defender, trailing behind you or whatever. Unfortunately, that defender was Antonio Cromartie, and he was in perfect position to pick off Nick Foles here. And, again, I mean, once again, more points that they possibly could have gotten out of this. And this was a mistake that, again, should never happen in the NFL here. He throws. The thing is, I mean, it's got to be like this process in your brain that you've worked out many times, where you have to lead the receiver, and how hard to throw the ball and everything. And I mean, this is basic fundamentals here, and he throws it behind Riley Cooper. And again, unfortunately, Antonio Cromartie was right there, ready to pick off the ball. Now, whether it was intercepted or not, I mean, this, an underthrown slant route, throwing it behind the guy is, an underthrown slant route, whether it's intercepted or not. And that's, to throw it behind the guy, I mean, it's, it wouldn't have been as bad if he threw it and, it wasn't ahead of Riley Cooper, but it, hit Riley Cooper in the head or something. I don't know. But the bottom line is this was a horrible throw. And I feel like plenty of times in the past, Foles has connected with Riley Cooper in the slant route in stride and everything. I just don't know what happened here. You got Halloween coming up, and sometimes I just wonder lately when Nick Foles is making some of these bad throws. Again, I mean, Foles made some great throws in this game, but then it's like he makes a throw like this. He misses Riley Cooper behind on a slant route, and I'm wondering, like, is this really Nick Foles, or is it somebody dressed up as Nick Foles for Halloween or something, wearing a Nick Foles mask, or I don't know. Is it, did they pull like something with Nick Foles like they did with John Travolta and Nicolas Cage in the movie Face Off or something, and I don't know, take his face, have that surgery and put his face on somebody else, or
interception. Now our side's got the ball. Sorry.
Something like that. I mean, I just don't. Sometimes I just don't get it with Nick Foles lately. I mean, so far this entire season, I mean, he's had. I mean, the one game that I think Nick Foles really shined in was the Redskins game, where he was pretty mistake free, and obviously completing his passes and wasn't throwing silly interceptions like he threw in this game, and even like the game against the Giants, which overall he was pretty good in, but there's just some of these turnovers Nick Foles has that are just make me scratch my head. So yeah, I mean that's really that. Face Off. Have you ever seen that movie, Fleming, Face Off, with John Travolta and Nicolas Cage?
Yes, I have.
You a fan of that movie?
Yes, I am.
That's yeah. I think the funniest part of that movie is when obviously you have Nicolas Cage, who starts out the film as the bad guy, Castor Troy or whatever, and they have that whole surgery or whatever, so that I guess Sean Archer can, the good guy can defuse this bomb and everything. And I think the funniest part of the movie is when Nicolas Cage is then, for most of the movie, he's the good guy, and he calls his wife, he calls his wife or whatever, after breaking out of that prison, and he says, he says the man you think your husband is not, and stuff like that. And I whenever I see that scene, I think to myself, like, could you imagine if you got a call from your spouse or well, I guess somebody who you had no idea who they were, and they just some random person you don't even know, and they say, the man you think your husband is not, or the woman that you think is your wife is not, or or for people who are, I don't know, people who are single out there, or if you live with your parents or something, the woman that you think is your mom is not. Like, if you just got a random phone call like that, like that just seems like it'd be the funniest thing in the world. And I don't know, that scene, even though it's not really supposed to be funny, it just, Nicolas Cage, I mean, it just comes off as really funny there in a random sort of way. But yeah, I mean, Halloween is this Friday, so you talk about masks and face-offs and whatever, and Nick Foles, sometimes by the drive, it just seems like sometimes it's just somebody out there who apparently is Nick Foles, but it's really someone else. I don't know, but I'm not going to keep going off on that tangent there, because there were some good things, good throws Nick Foles made, but I don't know. He kind of evolved in, at least in so far in this season. I don't know. He's kind of evolved in this erratic quarterback who sometimes you just don't know what you're going to get. Unfortunately, it's obviously the days of 27-2 and everything from last season are long over, and teams are maybe adjusting to weaknesses of Nick Foles. Maybe it's part of that, and some of the, I guess, the lack of abilities that Nick Foles doesn't have, like good pocket mobility and not having a strong arm, I think are starting to show. And I'm not, by strong arm, I don't mean like when he had the nice bomb to Jeremy Maclin for the touchdown. I'm talking about when he'll like backpedal, backpedal constantly, which he did a lot of in this game, and then he'll get pressured in a situation, he'll throw off his back foot, and because his arm isn't, the strongest in the world, he'll, instead of the ball getting thrown away or out of bounds, it might get picked off, thrown off his back foot. So, that's one of the concerns. A couple examples of concerns with Nick Foles that are kind of continuing to occur throughout the season. 610-683-4859 or at Tyler Werner Show on Twitter, or at facebook.com/Tyler Werner Show. Ways to get in on the show today. We'll have more coming up in just a moment. Try to get into a little bit of Flyers talk as usual, and later on maybe listening to some of the press conference audio from Nick Foles and Chip Kelly, and kind of same story with Nick Foles as of late, as far as his press conferences after some of the bad games he's been having. So all that and more right here in the Tyler Werner Show on Kutztown Radio.
percent of America's population. Tune in to 51% here on KUR. 51%, a show produced by women and for women, discussing women's issues and topics. 51%. 1:30 to 2 on Thursdays here on the Radio Voice, KUR.
Did you know that 80% of KU students don't binge drink?
Hanging posters again? Do you think that poster is really true?
Yes, it is true. I am a KU health ambassador and familiar with the audit. KU students participate in alcohol screening each year. We use the Alcohol Use Disorder Identification Test. It is a simple way to screen and identify people who are at risk of developing alcohol problems. We have learned that the majority of students are taking care of business and focusing on academics.
You know, most of my friends don't drink, so I guess what this poster is saying is true.
Would you like to get a group of friends together for a bite to eat?
Sounds great. Text me later.
Kutztown Living, neighbor to neighbor.
Funded by the Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board.
It's 7:15 right here on the Tyler Werner Show on Kutztown Radio. It was a nice. Well, it's pretty dark now, but obviously it's getting darker and darker, sooner and sooner as we next week will be November already. So, but quite a nice day we had today. 70s and sunny, and as I mentioned earlier, there's I would doubt that we're going to get snow on Saturday, but there was the low is supposed to be like 30 on Saturday morning, I think, and the high will be like mid 40s, I think. Windy, so I guess there was a chance of snow, but I hate to so I know some people hate to hear that S word a little early on, and so it's only October 28th, but some people think to themselves, winter is right around the corner. Now as I'm talking about winter coming up and everything, I have an interesting Tyler Werner Show call out of the week that I'm gonna fire up right now. Now that I'm, I guess on the topic, so let's fire it up.
It's time for Tyler Werner's call out of the week.
I just think somebody owes us an explanation, that's all. What's the matter with you? Loser! You're a loser! Are you kidding me?
Well, I have a microphone, and you don't.
So you will listen to every word I have to say!
And as I've hinted before, I mean, these call-outs, they're normally sports related for the most part, and so every now and then, though, I mean, you're gonna have a pretty random one, and this week it will be an example of a random call-out of the week. But I think it's regardless, I think it's pretty noteworthy. And actually, I guess I'll say, well, it's a family that I'm calling out, and a family that I'm like friends with that lives lives down the road from me, I guess you could say, down in a little more in southern Berks County, from where I commute from. But and actually, a friend of mine, part of this family, actually plays for the Kutztown baseball team and commutes here like I do. But I guess to spare any embarrassment, I won't disclose the names or any names here. But Sunday I drive by their house about 1.5 miles away from me, and I'm heading out for the day. I always I look down. They're like down in a valley a little bit. Their driveway kind of goes downhill. And, it's just one of those things. You drive by somebody's house, and you look down. I looked down this past Sunday, and I kind of do a double take because they already have their Christmas decorations up. I just again I double taked, and oh my God! And I mean, it was a pretty nice weekend too. I mean, it was like 60s, and I mean, I'm assuming they put his dad or whatever. I mean, they put up the decorations, I'm assuming on Saturday afternoon or or something like that when it was 65 and sunny out. So really when they're I guess when they're putting up the decorations, I mean it's you don't have like that Clark Griswold effect when he's putting up the decorations in Christmas Vacation, and there's icicles and there's snow everywhere and everything like that, because it's actually December.
Oh God, ease our suffering, and this is our moment of great despair.
I don't know what I mean. I know they've had a history of like putting their decorations up, just knowing them for a long time, and I know they've put them up before Thanksgiving, and I think, at least in my opinion today, I guess if you're going to put up Christmas decorations, maybe you can do that during Thanksgiving weekend. I think you wait until December. Because to me, the way I see it, to me, December 1st is kind of the beginning of winter, and I know sometimes maybe you get snow before that and everything, but because when I think of Thanksgiving, I don't think of I don't really have Christmas in my head until after Thanksgiving. Really, that's the way I look at it. Fall. You think of Thanksgiving, it's a fall holiday, but here I look down, it's not even Halloween yet, and they have their Christmas decorations up, and I don't know if they were trying to beat everybody, in the entire, Brecknock Township or, Robinson Township area. That's, I guess what you call the area I live in. It's right near Maple Grove Raceway. That's like, when I mention that actually rings a bell for some people, because otherwise it's kind of out in the middle of nowhere where the average person, doesn't really know where I'm talking about. But, and the funny thing is, I drive up a little further down, little up the road after seeing this, and a couple hundred yards later, and I see their, my friend's parents, walking down the street as they, on one of their morning walks, I guess, which they, it's not the first time I've seen them on their morning walks or whatever, but I look over, and then I see them on the side of the road, and they already have their Christmas decorations up, and it's not even Halloween yet. It's one of those things where I wanted to roll down the window, and you already have your Christmas decorations up, and it's not we haven't even got to Halloween yet, let alone Thanksgiving. But so again, I don't try to rip, it's a nice family, and I'm friends with them, but it's one of those things, like, you already have your Christmas decorations up, and I'm sure when other people drive by their house, and they see the Christmas decorations up already, I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one that has the same reaction. So right now they're probably, the laughing stock of, I guess, Brecknock / Robinson Township, in that area I live in down there. So I'm sure if like Nick Foles drove by, for instance, I'm guessing he would say, "What the hell?" Yeah, when he sees Christmas decorations up, and it's not even Halloween yet, and it looks even it probably seemed even more silly today when it was 75 degrees out and sunny, and still looking like summer was in the air. But obviously, again, like I mentioned, it's going to gradually get colder this week, and unfortunately, it's going to be it's going to be cold and windy on Saturday, with a slight chance of snow. But I'm not, I'm sure a lot of people after last winter are, outraged by that. But I, take it with a grain of salt, I guess. I'd be shocked if we got a huge snowstorm or anything, but just kind of a little message that winter is on its way back, and in that, I guess the holidays are coming in for some, like my friend and his family. I guess tis the season already for tis the season to be jolly, I guess. But anyways, we're almost halfway through the show, so before we hit the halfway mark on the Tyler Werner Show today, and before we get into more Eagles talk and some Flyers talk. As usual, on air fantasy football with Fleming and I, picking our teams and everything, and digging into the results of this past week's game. The selections that we made. Just to, get that document up here, that Word file. I'll just preface it by saying this. Whatever the points record was for either of us scoring this season, I shattered this week. 88-32 was the score in favor of me. Now here's the thing. I had Arian Foster as my running back, who had an absolute field day against the Titans. Jordy Nelson at receiver, he didn't do anything. Antonio Brown, the Steelers, again, field day. Rob Gronkowski, 3 touchdowns, field day. And the Bills defense, who I had, they gave up some points, but they had 6 turnovers and 4 sacks, which helped me out in that regards. So 88 points. I don't know what I think at some point maybe I got into the 60s, but with all these field days that some of these guys on my team had, I put up 88 points here with our point system. So which is mainly based around touchdowns and yardage bonuses, at least for the everybody but the kicker and the defense. So obviously those were some key picks there for the on-air fantasy football last week. So as usual, we'll wipe the slate clean, and we'll pick new teams between Fleming and I right here on the on-air fantasy football competition between Tyler Fleming and I. So yeah, with that in mind, Fleming, obviously you get the first pick, and the board is completely open to you to start things off here.
All right, I'm going to take a quarterback, but first let me say real quick, I have at least twice as many wins as the Jets, so I'm pretty proud of that. So, that's I'm keeping
true.
my spirits high for this week. I'm going to go with let's see here. I'll go with the running back Marshawn Lynch.
All right, now Lynch. Let's see as I get my schedule up here on the NFL Network page. All right, yeah, I got it up. All right, yeah, they're playing the Oakland Raiders, who, they shouldn't score many points, and they should probably just be able to run out the clock on essentially on the Raiders. So all right, yeah, Lynch sounds like a good pick for running back. All right, now let me see who I can pick here for running back. As I'm looking at some of these games for the first time. And last week I had Arian Foster, so I can't take him against the Eagles defense, for example. I'm tempted to take DeMarco Murray here. Although, I wonder, this Cardinals defense, how they'll hold up, and so I'm going to go with Andy Reid's Jamal Charles. Dwayne Bowe's the receiver. I always mix those guys up for some reason. They're both playmakers. But I'll go with Jamal Charles from the Kansas City Chiefs on this, which is kind of fitting since it's a Times Yours Tuesday, kind of an Andy Reid theme kind of thing here. So yeah, I'll take Jamal Charles at running back. Now my pick next. Do I go quarterback? Maybe I'll go quarterback, as that's open. Now, let me see here. The all-important quarterback position. I'm tempted to go either Peyton Manning or Tom Brady in that game. Although those defenses, I wonder how they'll be. You know what? I'm gonna go I'm gonna go Colin Kaepernick coming off the bye, hosting the St. Louis Rams. Obviously, he can make plays with his legs, and maybe get a touchdown with it. So I think that could be a factor there. And they just got smoked by the Chiefs this past week. So I'm gonna go Kaepernick, a little bit out of the blue there, but at least usual quarterback picks. But so now your quarterback selection.
All right, I'm gonna take Russell Wilson.
All right. Yeah, once again they're playing the Oakland Raiders theory comes into play there, obviously, and now you pick the next position before we hit halftime on the Tyler Werner Show.
All right, I'm going to switch it up and take defense. I'm going to go with the Chargers.
All right. And they're not coming off the bye. They just have a few extra days of rest after that Thursday night game. They're playing at Miami. For me on defense, let me see here. Last week I had a good pick in the Buffalo Bills defense. This week, I guess I'm gonna go. I guess I'll go Seahawks defense this week, hosting the Raiders. I think that the Seahawks defense played rather well against Carolina, at Carolina. So I mean, hopefully their defense is a little more back on track, even though they struggled offensively against the Panthers. So yeah, I think the Seahawks defense sounds like a plan this week for me. So yeah, I'll jot that down. And before we hit the break, let me make sure I announce this KUR notebook announcement. Kind of a new thing that we're supposed to do here on the Tyler Werner Show. Attention KU community. The Planetarium at KU hosts a variety of shows and events this fall. All shows begin at 7 p.m. and are open to the public. The Planetarium is located in Grimm, and all shows are followed by a Q&A with Dr. Phil Reed. One such event is on November 12th. Curiosity, Mars rover update. Chronicle a journey to the Earth. Admission is free. This message of community interest brought to you by the radio voice of Kutztown University, KUR. 610-683-4859 is the number to get in, or at Tyler Werner Show on Twitter, or at Facebook.com on Facebook. With that in mind, we'll hit halftime right here on the Tyler Werner Show on Kutztown Radio.
It's the top of the hour, and you're listening to the source for entertainment, information, and diversity, the radio voice of Kutztown University, KUR Kutztown. On your radio, on campus at 1670 AM. Locally on your television at Service Electric Berks Channel 24, Service Electric Lehigh Channel 266, Hometown U Telecom Channel 28. On your smartphone by downloading an app like TuneIn. On any phone, cell, or landline simply by dialing 610-465-7860, or anywhere in the world on your computer streaming at kur.kutztown.edu. We are the radio voice of Kutztown University, KUR Kutztown.
KUR can also be heard in select campus buildings like the MSU, Rickenbach, Stratton, Rec Center, and Keystone at 88.3 FM.
Nominated for Best College Radio Station at an institution with under 10,000 enrollment and winner of Best Use of Social Media, your news leader in northeastern Berks County, KUR Kutztown.
News, time for news.
The KUR News Time is the top of the hour. I'm Mike Regensberger. State police will be pressing charges against a known suspect who allegedly stole a 49-year-old woman's clothes. The incident happened Monday afternoon or evening along the 300 block of Dogwood Lane in nearby Rusker Manor Township. The identity of the suspect was unreleased by police. And state police are seeking the public's assistance with a burglary dating back to May 30th, which occurred along the first block of Mellon School Lane in Fleetwood. At least 2 suspects removed multiple firearms, outdoor power equipment, and electronics totaling $12,000 from the property. Anyone who has information relative to this incident or the identity of the suspects, please contact state police at 610-378-4011. That's 610-378-4011. Surveillance pictures of the suspects can be seen on our KUR Facebook page. Make sure you like Kutztown University Radio on Facebook and scroll back to the Tuesday morning messages where we posted the picture from state police. Checking KUR Sports, the KU Golden Bears getting ready for a big home game, the final home game, not the final game of the year, but the final home game of the year. This coming Saturday, November 1st, Monsoon Mike said it's going to be a cold one, but it's going to be the final home game of the season, November 1st, Saturday against Lock Haven, and it'll be live right here on the radio voice of Kutztown University, KUR, as well as our friends at PBS Channel 39. If you're at the game, make sure to take your radio to the game and tune to 1670 AM. Monsoon Mike says cooler weather as we wrap up the week. For late-breaking news, weather, sports, and traffic, sometimes before we can even get live on the air, make sure you like our award-winning Kutztown University Radio Facebook page or on Twitter at KU Radio. From KUR News, I'm Mike Regensberger.
Any views or opinions expressed on KUR are not necessarily those of Kutztown University, Kutztown University Student Government, Kutztown University Student Services, Incorporated, KUR staff and management, or other affiliated organizations.
It's 5 after 7 on the Tyler Werner Show. And we're going to, as we normally do after halftime on the Tyler Werner Show, we'll go around the NFL a little bit outside of the Philadelphia Eagles and give like a top 5 impressions on other games that happened around the league this past weekend. It was week 8. Already we're at mid-season, basically. A lot of teams have already played half their games. So let's obviously start off with number 5 here. A lot of interesting games. Some games were just flat out upsets this past week. Now, one of them to me that was not an upset was the New England Patriots. Just absolutely, I think, putting the nail in the coffin in the Chicago Bears season, in my opinion. I mean, last week I said the Bears were basically done and they weren't going to be a serious playoff threat. And I think the New England Patriots putting up 51 points, Rob Gronkowski having a field day, Tom Brady having a field day. After a shaky start, suddenly the New England Patriots are 6-2. And this coming week, they host obviously the Denver Broncos. What is this going to be? I think this is going to be Tom Brady versus Peyton Manning 55 or something. I don't know. Last year, I think it was the regular season game was 14 or whatever. I don't know. This is yet another going to be another classic battle, I think, between the Denver Broncos and the New England Patriots. And who knows? Maybe after losing twice to the Broncos last year. Oh, I'm sorry. The Patriots had that epic comeback last year against the Denver Broncos, if I'm not mistaken. But in the playoffs, that would be a different story when the Broncos beat the Patriots. So, but now, should be an interesting matchup, and perhaps it could determine home field advantage. So, an outright epic battle once again between Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, once again bound to happen. Maybe one of the last ones we'll see. Outright. While Peyton Manning and Tom Brady are still in the league. So, big game to look forward to there. Number 4, Andy Reid. And again, I mean, kind of aptly titled "The Time's Yours Tuesday," but speaking of Andy Reid, I mean, his Kansas City Chiefs just beat up on the St. Louis Rams, 34-7. The Rams coming off that big win against the Seahawks that sent the Seahawks down to 3-3, but Chiefs, they beat obviously they had another team that had a shaky start, but they beat, last week they beat the Chargers. This week they beat the Rams. Now they're 4-3, and suddenly they're creeping into the playoff contention mix a little bit. And look at all the teams that are in playoff contention in the AFC and that are just above 500 right now. And the AFC is actually, overall looking pretty strong this year. If you start to piece it together, especially when you got the Cleveland Browns and that entire AFC North division over 500 right now. But the Browns, I'm not segueing into the Browns here beating the Oakland Raiders as my number 3 impression, obviously. That number 3 spot to me goes to the Pittsburgh Steelers ending the 5-game winning streak of the Indianapolis Colts at home. Big Ben Roethlisberger throwing for over 500 yards in this game. That's the second time he's done that in his career, and he's the only quarterback to ever do that twice in his career. Not Drew Brees, not Peyton Manning, not Brady. None of those guys have ever done. Not Dan Marino, but Big Ben Roethlisberger, another 500-plus yard game in his career. He had 5 touchdowns. They just had a field day on this Indianapolis Colts defense. Number 2 is that I think the real New Orleans Saints are standing up, as I would say sometimes. With the real Chicago Bears, please stand up. I said that last week, I think on Twitter, etc., etc. And I think the real New Orleans Saints are back. Jimmy Graham looks back at full health. Mark Ingram having a big game here. The Saints look like they're getting together, and they end what was a 4-game winning streak for the Green Bay Packers, who were playing well. And if you're a Green Bay Packers fan, a little concerned about the hamstring issue that Aaron Rodgers had in this game. Obviously, that Packers were looking strong early on in the game, but he tweaked his hamstring, and Aaron Rodgers at one point late in the game even had a wide open lane to run through, and on that hamstring, he gimped his way into the end zone for a touchdown there. But you could tell, Aaron Rodgers, he had a bit of a hamstring tweak, I think, that was in his head a little bit, and obviously that's tough when you're quarterback, especially just ask Tony Romo when he's he comes back out and he's playing with that back injury, and just the thought that at any moment I can get creamed again in the pocket like I did earlier. And without further ado, that brings me to the number 1 impression this week. Not that the 3-5 Redskins, beat the Cowboys, because Redskins and Cowboys is a storied rivalry, obviously, and regardless of how bad the Redskins may be or how bad the Cowboys may be, doesn't mean that not both teams are not going to, doesn't mean that nobody's going to show up here to play this game. Just ask the Cowboys, the year they went 1-15 with Jimmy Johnson, when their only win came against the Washington Redskins, who were obviously a very good team that year. So Redskins in overtime upset the Dallas Cowboys, and as I mentioned earlier, there were some crazy stories, coming out of this game. Obviously, dominated by the Tony Romo back issues that he's had, back contusion or whatever they're calling it. And just some of the hits he was taking. You wonder if he can last the whole season. DeMarco Murray, who they've been relying on so heavily, you'll wonder if he can last the whole season and he can keep up the production that he's been putting up this past. Again, he had another big game, but the final score 20-17, and in overtime, the Redskins kick a field goal, Cowboys, in 4-down territory, and they turn the ball over on downs, and Redskins defense really showing up here. And it looks like perhaps they're going to get Robert Griffin III back perhaps this coming week for their next game, but they're 3-5, and I don't know how I don't see how they're going to dig themselves out of that hole unless they have like another miraculous big winning streak like they did a couple years ago, to go 10-6 and win the division, when I think that was once again another occasion where the Dallas Cowboys had a division lead that they blew in December. So I think but I think that's highly unlikely when you got the Cowboys who are 6-2, and you got the Eagles who are 5-2, and then even just to get a wild card spot. I mean, Detroit's 6-2, and the Packers I know are 5-3 now, but I'm going to expect that coming off the bye they're going to come out strong, and I think the Packers they just hit they hit one of those spots, and traveling down to New Orleans to play in that dome, it can be a tough place to play in, especially when the real New Orleans Saints show up there. Unlike a few weeks ago when the Buccaneers almost went in there and beat the New Orleans Saints. I think the Saints are back, the real Saints, and I think I think they starting with Carolina. I think coming this weekend. I think maybe they'll continue their winning ways here. That maybe they're starting back up and maybe win what is otherwise a pretty weak division in the NFC South. So yeah, I mean that's really where we're at right now around the NFL. You got the Arizona Cardinals at 6-1 ahead of the pack, who are going to take on the Dallas Cowboys in Dallas, and I'm interested in hearing what listeners out there think about that game. If will the Cowboys lose 2 straight, and suddenly will they start to maybe look a little more like the Cowboys of old? Can Tony Romo hold up this season? Because obviously, again, the Cardinals, obviously they're a well-coached team, and they're a contender here right now to perhaps win the NFC this year. But I think again, the Eagles had so many missed opportunities, and I talked earlier about the bad interceptions from Nick Foles, the fumble from Josh Huff. I didn't really talk about the end of the game yet, and but now's coming up as a time, obviously, where we can talk about that. I won't get into it right this moment though, because I don't want to push back the break and everything else. I want to try to keep things in line here a little bit. So, but let me get into a little something with the defense here. Obviously, 2 big touchdown passes. Carson Palmer. One was a bomb. Obviously, the game winner to John Brown, rookie receiver. That the Eagles, that was selected by the Cardinals just a few picks after Josh Huff was selected by the Philadelphia Eagles in this past year's draft. John Brown, really coming into his own and is, on the Arizona Cardinals, was one play, which I'll, we'll talk about later. But while I have a couple minutes here, I wanted to talk about the Larry Fitzgerald touchdown. He called an intermediate or short route, and he used to be like a big bomb, touchdown guy, but he it seems like the Cardinals have been using him in more of a they've been using him on shorter routes and intermediate routes, as I guess they would say. And he catches, and he just kind of he catches one from Carson Palmer, and he just kind of bursts up through the secondary and takes it to the house, I guess, as they say, for the touchdown. And for those who watch the game, and if you look at you go back and watch the game, if you look at the play, Brandon Boykin, who is out there on that play, as Larry Fitzgerald, is burning these guys down the field. Suddenly, Brandon Boykin, grabs his hamstring or whatever. Now, this is after he gets burned, and now I look at that, and to me it comes off as one of those one of those fake I pulled my hamstring or something like that. It comes off as a golf swing or something my back, for those who follow the PGA Tour might know who I'm talking about.
Yesterday I did pull out.
Yeah, I mean that seems like something like Tiger Woods would do. It seems like Brandon Boykin pulled a Tiger Woods there on that play, and seemingly, I don't know, because Fitzgerald burned him on that play, and I don't know, Brandon Boykin, it seemed like he wanted to maybe make a little excuse for that. I don't know, but that's what I got out of that, because to my knowledge, Brandon Boykin's fine, and played in the game after that. So, I don't know if anyone else caught that, but the defense, Brandon Boykin on that play specifically, kind of pulling a Tiger Woods there.
Yesterday I did pull out.
And I guess maybe pretending that his hamstring hurt on that play as a way to maybe excuse him and make him not as accountable for getting burned by Larry Fitzgerald on that big touchdown play there by the Arizona Cardinals. So if you're observant, you catch that kind of stuff, and so and then you hear others maybe on other radio shows bring that up as well, and that seem to get at the same idea, and found that interesting. Attention KU community. The Kutztown University student group Allies will host an interactive screening of the Rocky Horror Picture Show at 7 p.m. this Thursday, October 30th, in the McFarland Student Union Building, Multipurpose Room 218. This event is free and open to the public. Students, faculty, and community members are invited to dress up as their favorite character to participate in the accompanying activities. This message of community interest brought to you by the radio voice of Kutztown University, KUR. And as always, 610-683-4859 is the number to get in, or at facebook.com, or at Tyler Werner Show on Twitter. We'll be right back after this.
Email any suggestions to kur@kutztown.edu. Complaints, concerns, questions, whatever you may be thinking at the time, it's kur@kutztown.edu.
Hey, there he is. How's it going?
I'm having a stroke.
Are you going to shake my hand or what?
I'm having a stroke.
Wow, you're not even moving your arm.
I'm having a stroke.
Are you okay?
I'm having a stroke.
Your face looks weird too.
I'm having a stroke.
Are you having a seizure or something?
I'm having a stroke.
When someone is having a stroke, they may not be able to say it with words, but their body language will tell you loud and clear.
I'm having a stroke.
You just need to know the sudden signs. Look for FAST, F-A-S-T. F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. Or S, speech difficulty. Then T, time. Time to call 911 immediately, because the sooner they get to the hospital, the sooner they'll get treatment. And that can make a remarkable difference in their recovery. Know the sudden signs. Face, arm, speech, time. Spot a stroke fast. Visit strokeassociation.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association and the Ad Council.
7:23 right here in the Tyler Werner Show. And, I guess, did I mention that the Sixers season starts this coming week? I think tomorrow night. Not that, anybody's really thrilled, I guess, about how the team's expected to perform this season. again, last week I mentioned that the over under right now, as far as wins for the Sixers this season, of course, in a long 82 game season, of course the over under is 15.5 games for the Sixers to win, lower than last season.
Oh God, ease our suffering, and this is our moment of
really
great despair.
It's going to be something, another season that I guess some Sixer fans, I guess if you want to look at it this way, will have to suffer through a year of pretty empty Wells Fargo Center nights on for home games and when the Sixers are playing there. So, but yeah, I mean, hopefully it's hopefully in the long run it when they get Dario Saric over here from Europe and they get Joel Embiid out there in the coming years, and maybe they get more draft picks. Hopefully they get more talent that can turn into, in a few years down the road, championship caliber basketball team in the NBA. Hope that's what we hope. So, but right now it's essentially patience mode right now for the 76ers. Now, obviously, of course, you got the San Francisco Giants up right now in the World Series of Baseball. For those who follow, again, I mean, I mentioned this before, but it just, and especially when the Phillies just aren't really viable anymore, amongst other things. I mean, I just don't, you don't hear the same conversation about baseball as you used to, and the same interest as as you're used to with baseball. I mean, especially like, you got football on, and ratings for baseball, for World Series baseball are very low compared to football games and NFL games and everything. So, but I guess for those following, I mean, Game 6 tonight at 8:00, I guess could decide the. Perhaps, if the Giants win tonight, I mean, I guess as far as sports goes, the San Francisco Giants would, I guess, be the closest thing you could say to a dynasty right now in all of sports. I mean, you don't really have any of that in the NFL. And then I guess if you want to go NHL, I mean, the Kings, out of the past 3 Stanley Cups, they've won 2 of them, and so. San Francisco Giants, they could make it out of 5 years. They got to win a 3rd championship in 5 years tonight, or if not tonight, maybe Game 7 tomorrow night. I mean, or maybe the Kansas City Royals, come from behind here in the series and pull out the upset. I don't know, but that's baseball is all pretty much coming to an end either tonight or tomorrow night, and then in hockey. Obviously, the Flyers, I guess in a sense, they moved to 500 since, I guess people kind of treat overtime losses or overtime losses / shootout losses as ties nowadays, in a sense, given that you get a point like you would back in the day when ties were in the league. Flyers now sit at 3-3-2. And again, I mean, tonight. Well, actually, right now, I didn't even know this. I'm thinking last week the puck dropped at 8:30 last night, and I didn't even know this. The game between the Flyers and the Los Angeles Kings started at 7:00, and I didn't even know this. So I guess it's a bad job out of me. I didn't even know that the game started at 7. I thought maybe it was another 8 o'clock game or something, but the Flyers are up 1-0 right now against obviously the defending Stanley Cup champions, the Los Angeles Kings, who are 6-1-1 themselves right now. So I guess a good way to start off for the Flyers, and a little more promising than last Tuesday when they they go out and they lose 4-0 to Chicago, and they didn't even look like they're in the same league that night. But fortunately, though, the next night, back-to-back nights, no rest. They go into Pittsburgh and beat the Penguins yet again, 5-3 in Pittsburgh. And the statistic is in that new arena over there. Since the Penguins have played in their new arena in Pittsburgh, whatever it's called, the Flyers going over there are 10-1-1 after beating the Penguins yet again. They just they continue to be in Pittsburgh's head, no matter how maybe bad the Flyers start, and they beat the Penguins again. It's like it's like a home ice advantage away from home in a sense. It's like when the Flyers play the Pittsburgh Penguins, it's like they got a home ice advantage in Pittsburgh for whatever reason, and they just again another win against Pittsburgh. Good way to start that rivalry off for the Flyers in the season, and then a new division rival as of last year, the Detroit Red Wings, since they moved to the 8-team division, 8-team divisions in the Eastern Conference, and then 2 7-team divisions in the Western Conference. Flyers on Saturday beating the Red Wings 4-2. So that helped the Flyers kind of move to 500, 3-3-2 record. So again, right now they're taking on the Los Angeles Kings, and in a half hour when I get done with the Tyler Werner show today, I'll be interested in tuning into that on the car ride home, and then hopefully catching the rest of it. I guess when I get home, actually on TV, being able to watch the game. But yeah, right now 1-0, 11:46 to go in the first period. So still a lot of hockey to be played, but the Flyers, getting out to an early 1-0 lead, and so that good news for the Flyers right now. Now getting back to the Eagles talk, I mentioned earlier, I left off with the Brandon Boykin play on defense, that the big play they gave up to Larry Fitzgerald, and obviously that was a big setback. Now you had Nate Allen, the only turnover that the Eagles got on the Arizona Cardinals. The defense in this game, they weren't getting sacks on Carson Palmer like they were before. I mean, they were getting pressure on him and everything, and it's just mostly big plays. I mean, they got a lot of the yards that the Eagles gave. I think the 400 yards or so that the Eagles gave up in this game. I think close to 150 of those yards or so came from the big touchdown play that Larry Fitzgerald had, and then at the end of the game, the big touchdown pass to John Brown, the bomb over Nate Allen and Kerry Williams. So other than that, I mean, they forced a lot of 3-and-outs in the third quarter, I think, on the Arizona Cardinals, and the offense had its opportunities. Again, they left some points on the board, and they could have easily have scored more than 30 points in this game and really been in the driver's seat late in the game. But obviously things did not play out that way. Now, you get to you start getting to the end of the game here, and the Eagles are moving the ball down the field. Now they get a 1st and 10 on the 10-yard line, and I don't know, half a foot or so. So essentially they could have gotten a first down, just a fresh set of downs, even if they got a few inches short of the goal line. They on that last offensive drive, they still could have had, a fresh set of downs on the 1 foot line essentially to get into the end zone and kind of put the game away, I guess in a sense you could say. Or I mean, if not, I mean obviously make it very difficult for the Arizona Cardinals to pull out the game and win. Now, on the first, because this is kind of where the sequence, a series of great opportunities here, I guess you could say, and controversial coaching mishaps, I guess I'll call them. They have Chris Polk out, and he gets a few carries in this late drive here for the Eagles. 1st and 10, he gets about 6 yards, and then 2nd and 4, he gets 3 more, and now after that run, it's 3rd and 1. The referees again. I mean, now I guess I should say that this referee. I mean, for those who care about the statistic, I forget what the head official's name is, but maybe I'll pull a wrestling line out here, and maybe as Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson would say in an old episode of Monday Night Raw, it doesn't matter what his name is. Apparently this head official's from Dallas, for what it's worth, in games where he is officiating that the Eagles are playing, and apparently the Eagles are 0-4, and I don't know. I mean, I'm not trying to accuse him of anything here, but this game had a lot of controversial calls. It had a lot of bad spots, and it had some inconsistencies in calls, kind of like the horse collar tackles. Like there was one that I thought was clearly a horse collar tackle that they didn't call, and then they seemed to call one, with Sean McCoy here getting, supposedly horse collar tackled, and then they'd call one that I didn't think was a horse collar tackle, and by definition, and like I mentioned in regards to this late drive here, bad spots. There is a bad spot that they gave Chris Polk on this play, where it at least looked like he on the 2nd down run, when it was like 2nd and 4, it looked like he at least got to the 1st down marker. The yard marker was like, I don't know, like I'm watching it on TV, and they, like, where they had the yellow line was different than where I looked on the sideline, and where they seemed to have the the actual 1st down marker. I don't know what the deal is there, but it looked like Chris Polk had enough on his initial, I guess, push through the pack. It looked like he had enough for the 1st down, and that was before the second effort, because he got he kind of got forced back a little bit. But I think with forward progress, I think he would have had the 1st down. I don't know if you can say he had the touchdown or not. He but he was. I thought he was very close to even the end zone. So I mean, obviously, I think he had enough to get the 1st down. And essentially, it was it left him with 3rd, or maybe this was. I guess the run after he got through. I don't know. I mean, my sequence here maybe is a little messed up, but I'm just going off of pure memory here. But the point is that the referee spotted the ball, well behind the 1st down marker line or whatever, and Chip Kelly doesn't challenge the play here. Now, I know he said in the post-game press conference that after the game that he didn't get word or whatever from, I guess, whoever the assistant coach is that is designed to specifically tell him in cases like this that, that should be a challenge, that is definitely a bad spot. And, Chip Kelly said that he didn't get word on that. But I think, even though it was a tough view that he probably had of the play himself, looking up at the replay screen, I think you gotta look at that and at least think to yourself, I mean, what's the worst that can happen by challenging the play, even if he's not getting word for whatever reason from his assistant guy who's supposed to handle this stuff and be on top of it? I think the way you got to look at it is, well, at worst we lose a timeout, but at most you get a fresh set of downs essentially, and you get like essentially 4 opportunities to get into the end zone. Really, I mean that's what. I mean the reward here is much higher than the risk. I mean you lose a timeout and it's like, so what? Because if you get the first down here. Obviously you get a fresh set of downs, even if it's not ruled a touchdown. You get 4 more shots essentially getting in the end zone. If it's that close, I say 4 shots because then you don't have to go. You don't really have to go for a field goal in that situation, if you so desire, and if you have confidence that in 4 plays that maybe you can get Chris Polk in the end zone. And I mean, that brings up the other controversy is that they went for a field goal on that on that 4th down after that, instead of because then they bring out LaShawn. I guess then they had LaShawn McCoy on the 3rd down. Now I think I'm correcting myself on the sequence that I was talking about earlier. Under shotgun, they run. They put Nick Foles in shotgun a lot, I guess, to, because I think Chip Kelly is not very confident in Nick Foles' ability, obviously, to be mobile and to escape the pocket under pressure and everything. And so they line him up in shotgun and they run LaShawn McCoy out of shotgun. And LaShawn McCoy suggested last week that he likes running under center more because he's able to momentum. He builds it more out rather than running it out of shotgun or whatever. And but not only that, I mean, they just had Chris Polk gain 6 yards. The next play he gains 3. Why wouldn't you stick with Polk here, maybe to push the pile a little bit, because he has more of the power run game. And I think you can trust in Polk maybe to get to get half a yard or whatever it was. So some people suggested they do a QB sneak with Nick Foles, and Chip Kelly's explanation of that is that last season against the Cowboys they tried that with Nick Foles, and it got shoved up their tail, I think is how he worded it in the press conference. So some people just throw that possibility out, and I think maybe you don't do that there, because Foles, I mean, at least me personally, I don't have confidence in him running a QB sneak. Now he's 6. People say he's 6'6", but he's not built like Cam Newton, for instance. And obviously, Foles doesn't have. You see like Tom Brady run the QB sneak. Even as slow as Tom Brady is as a runner, he's able to push himself over the pile a little bit. And let's not forget that with Nick Foles, I mean, he's under a backup center here still. He doesn't got Jason Kelce, so I think you're pushing your luck a little bit with a QB sneak for Nick Foles. I don't have confidence in Nick Foles doing a QB sneak, and I don't think Chip Kelly did either here. But I think the route to go there was to keep Chris Polk on the field and try to get him at least the first down, if not in the end zone here, and push the crowd up with him. I think was the way to go. Definitely not with definitely, the option of a QB sneak with Nick Foles, I don't think was the, I don't think, as he would say, would make any noise really
Let's make some noise,
in the long run. They bring out Shady, I get, but I Shady running out of shotgun, and I think the way to go was Chris Polk, maybe under center, and pushing through the pile a little bit. I think might have been the way to go. So, but it didn't turn out that way, and then they kicked the field goal on fourth down. A kind of a pretty conservative move there by Chip Kelly, which some people have been a little upset towards. But I'll get into that on the other side of this next break here. 610-683-4859 is the way to get in. Right here on the Tyler Werner Show on Kutztown Radio.
Hi, this is Tony Morris. Join me each Sunday here on 1670 AM KUR for Classical Guitar Alive. Each week we explore a wide variety of music with guitar, and you'll also hear interviews with many of the world's foremost performers and composers. That's Classical Guitar Alive right here on 88.3 FM and 1670 AM KUR.
Sundays at 11 a.m. It's Telescopic Topics, a look into the world above us.
Have you ever wondered how pictures of the sky at night are taken? I'm Tia Mahalanobis. Astrophotography is a type of photography which specifically focuses on recording images of celestial objects in the night sky. It is seen as an art for producing visually pleasing images and has more recently been used in scientific research as technology has advanced over the years. Both film and digital cameras are used in the procedure. Although the results of the images are rewarding to both the professional photographer and the astrophotography enthusiast, capturing the heavenly bodies at their loveliest is a challenging and lengthy task. What makes astrophotography exceptionally difficult is the recording of light and color in the images, which are also the most important things to capture in not just astrophotography, but any type of photography. After all, photography translates into drawing with light. To the naked eye, most stars appear to be white or have neutral tones, such as our sun. In reality, numerous other stars often embody hues ranging from blue to red, which are often washed out in pictures. Fortunately, star colors can be enhanced to their true form if the camera exposure is correctly used. An astrophotographer typically uses a very low ISO. The ISO controls the camera's sensitivity to light. A low ISO number is less sensitive to light, and a high ISO number poses a higher sensitivity to light. Also, the lower the ISO number is, the slower the shutter speed of the camera is. When using a high ISO, the shutter speed increases. The shutter speed is simply how long a camera shutter is open while taking a photograph. Although it would be easier to shoot stars with a high ISO, this setting, especially used in low light, can produce grainy images, which make important details hard to see. A low ISO makes for high dynamic range in the photograph, which means more details can be preserved, and as a result, a clearer picture will be composed.
Telescopic Topics, a look into the world above us. Stay tuned to KUR for more telescopic topics, and for more information, or to hear this segment again, click on the Telescopic Topics icon on the KUR website at www.kutztown.edu/KUR. Telescopic Topics is a production of the KU Physical Sciences Department and is recorded by KU astronomy students in the studios of KUR. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
It's 7:48 right here on the Tyler Werner Show on Kutztown Radio, and for those who recognize this theme song, this is obviously the theme song for WWE wrestler Dave Bautista, normally just referred to as Batista. And I play this because I walked into the studio earlier today, and before the show, and Fleming brought to my attention that we have a new fish here in the studio, and its name is Batista, apparently. So I, immediately both of us thought the same thing. Like, we both thought Dave Bautista. Like, was this fish named after the wrestler Dave Bautista or something? I don't know. I don't know any. I don't know any other fish or any pets out there or anything. Any other animal I've ever come into contact with. I've never, I've never run into anybody that says like, oh, like meet our dog named Batista here or anything. But a fish, got a fish swimming in the studio over there in its little bowl, I guess, or whatever it is, and its name is Batista. So I guess, I guess that's some breaking news, I guess, for the day. Before I want to get obviously I wanted to get some, if I'm gonna update everybody on a fish in the studio, I guess I want to try to get an update on Tony Romo. Now, a few hours ago, let me see what they're saying right now on ESPN. The Cowboys will go as far as Tony Romo's back will take them. That's the title of the article. Let's see what it says here. Tony Romo walked toward his silver Mercedes coupe in the bowels of AT&T Stadium on Monday night. Des Bryant called his name. Let me see. I don't know. Maybe this was a silly article to pull up. Let me scroll down to the end here. You see, one of your brothers who works so hard on the ground, and there's nothing you can do to help. Cowboys safety J.J. Wilcox says, and it becomes an emotional thing. Okay, now if Tony is ready to come back in, you give him a chance to do it, is what Coach Jason Garrett said, because he's our quarterback. I guess, I would have thought, having been published a few hours ago, I thought maybe this would have a little more insight into, I guess the status today of Tony Romo and not what was going on during the game last night. But, I don't know. Let me, because, I bring up breaking news about, the new fish named Batista we have in the studio, and then I just remembered to myself, I said earlier in the show I wanted to get a Tony Romo update. I guess, okay, here's one where the subtitle seems to be, okay, here we go.
It's a medical decision.
All right, Jason. It's funny how Jason Garrett. You can tell it's almost the end of the show here. I'm fumbling through my words. I find it funny how the video pops up here when I click on this article, and it's a medical decision, is what Jason Garrett just said. And I hit the pause button because I want to actually read the article here. It's titled, Tony Romo, Cowboys will move on. Now let's see. He underwent tests this morning for a more complete look at the bruised back he suffered in the third quarter of the loss last night. Of course, when he kind of got kneed in the back. Let's see. Right now they're saying we'll get the test today, but we anticipate him being ready to go. I guess this is what, Coach Jason Garrett goes on to say. When he left the stadium last night, he seemed like he was okay, and we'll get the test today to verify everything. So I guess if I were to play the video here, then I guess that's what he would go on to say. I guess I guess it's just a wait and see thing for the Cowboys right now. So I don't know. I mean, we'll wait and see. But I mean, the bottom line is, they got to face the Arizona Cardinals this coming week, and I wonder if Tony Romo can hold up the rest of the season, and if that's not going to be in his head now, that after the way he just got mugged against the Redskins several times in this game, I wonder if that's going to get in Romo's head a little bit. And again, if DeMarco Murray were to go down, I mean, that could be another thing. Romo can't, rely on the running game necessarily to be as strong if they don't have DeMarco Murray out there, as he continues to, build on his impressive record that he set last week as far as 100-plus running games in the season. So, I guess it's a wait-and-see mode, I guess, for them right now. But I guess they're hopeful that Romo will play this coming week against the Cardinals. But, like I said, we got the Eagles coming up on, against the Houston Texans. And I'm hoping, I'm expecting them to bounce back here against the Texans because obviously you got J.J. Watt, who's going to be in the face of Nick Foles and everything. But, hopefully they can run the ball here. Hopefully they have Sproles back. Obviously that would help. LaShawn McCoy, I think he's back to form a little more. He did a decent job against the toughest run defense in the entire league. So, I think LaShawn McCoy is a little more back to himself. That Sean McCoy maybe we're used to for now. And, hopefully they can run the ball on him. And hopefully they use him more in the passing game because that was something that was definitely missed in this game. I don't know why they haven't been throwing to him. I don't know why they didn't throw to Zach Ertz more in this game because, that was supposed to be one of the key matchups that the Eagles had an advantage in is that the Cardinals would oftentimes they'd bring a safety up to blitz and that would likely leave Zach Ertz open like a tight end, slot cross or whatever. They didn't do that. They're not they're not throwing the ball to LaShawn McCoy too much. If you're not going to hand the ball off, if you're going to throw 62 times in a game, why would you not throw to LaShawn McCoy a little more in that regards if you're going to throw 62 passes? So yeah, that. I know like Jeremy Maclin had a field day, and obviously 2 touchdowns. He had that great catch, the bomb from Nick Foles, and he had the kind of vintage Chip Kelly design play, kind of like that screenplay where maybe they'd normally use like Sproles or LaShawn McCoy on, but they ran it with Maclin. They pulled Lane Johnson out for the block, the DB, and that worked wonders, and it got him a touchdown. So Maclin having a field day. I kind of ran out of time. I wanted to mention how obviously there was that potential moment where he could have had a concussion, but he cleared tests. Where Patrick Peterson, on the other hand, had a concussion out of that. Where what was it? Backman came in from the secondary for the Cardinals, and it looked like he kind of led with his helmet on that play. Just again, fundamental tackling, kind of out the window there, and Macklin's head then bounces off into Patrick Peterson's head, and Peterson seemed to get the worst of that. He was laying on his stomach like for a while, and he didn't even roll over after. So he looked out of bent out of shape there, like he really got hurt, and I don't know what happened there, but he obviously he didn't come back out. But Maclin would come back out, and of course after running in on a punt return, he was returning punts this game because again they don't have Sproles out there, so they're kind of drawing from the bottom of the barrel here. They have Maclin out there, and after on the one punt return that he kind of bobbled, I think a little bit into his hands, bouncing off the ground. He starts running, and then he gets like pushed off towards the Cardinals sideline. He runs through this Gatorade table or whatever. There's Gatorade everywhere afterwards, orange Gatorade, and like he knocks another table over that was behind it, and it was just like a crazy little spill there. From Jeremy Maclin. They had to reset the Gatorade table and everything, and I'm sure the water boy Bobby Boucher would have been, played by Adam Sandler back in the day, I'm sure would have been, very proud of that after that happening, Yeah.
Oh my God, that is funny!
So, yeah, I mean, that was, I thought that was obviously a big highlight of the game, a blooper highlight in a sense, but Macklin was okay after that, and just moments later, he'd catch that big bomb from Nick Foles, so maybe it helped him out there. Now, before we wrap the show up, let's pick on-air fantasy again. We left off with Fleming's pick of the defense to start things off. So let me go on to pick the next position. As we move on here, I'm gonna go with wide receiver, and I'm gonna go with another guy from Andy Reid's Kansas City Chiefs. I'm gonna go with Dwayne Bowe, playing against the New York Jets.
All right, and for my wide receiver pick, I'm going to take Antonio Brown.
All right. I took him last week, and he had a great week. And now you pick the next position.
All right, I'm going to stick with the wide receiver slot and take Jeremy Macklin.
All right. Macklin, another guy who had a breakout game last week, definitely on the fantasy scheme. Second wide receiver. Let me make sure I don't take a repeat of last week. Who did I take? I took Nelson, who's on a bye anyways, and Antonio Brown. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna take Dez Bryant from the Cowboys. I think bound to have a good week on the maybe no Patrick Peterson for the Cardinals, and so they might be a little shorthanded, the Cardinals in the secondary, but should still be a good game though, I think. And now it's it's my pick. Okay, I'll go tight end. And then you get the last pick. Tight end today. Well, this week, I had Gronk last week. Can't take him, so we'll go. This week, I think I'll go back to. I'll go to Jordan Cameron, who had a great week a few weeks ago when I picked him. The Browns taking on the Buccaneers this week. I think Jordan Cameron will be a good selection.
All right, and for my tight end pick, I'm going to take Dwayne Allen.
All right, Dwayne Allen.
And that just leaves us with kickers, correct?
Yep. Yeah, you get the first selection for that.
All right, I'm going to take Adam Vinatieri.
All right. And let's see, for me, let's see, I'll take Cody Parkey for the Philadelphia Eagles against the Texans this week. Cody Parkey's definitely becoming a reliable kicker for the Eagles, certainly, and even when the Eagles don't get in for the touchdown when they have their red zone problems, you can normally pretty much always rely on Cody Parkey to get a field goal. So yeah, that's that. We'll look forward to the game against the Texans this week. Hopefully the Eagles can bounce back and get a win, especially after coming just short against the Arizona Cardinals, a premier team in the NFC. It appears maybe next week we'll have somebody also one of the KUR trainees shadow this. I don't know. This week on the board it was written in. So we had a name that was written in, but I guess they crossed their name off and they couldn't keep the commitment or whatever you want to say.
Yesterday I did pull out.
So yeah, I guess they pulled a little Tiger Woods there on us and did not shadow, but I don't know. Maybe who knows? Maybe next week we'll have maybe next week they'll make a commitment to, or somebody else will shadow the show and we can have another voice here on the Tyler Werner Show. But that remains to be seen. Next week, again, we'll break down the Houston Texans game. Hopefully, I expect the Eagles to bounce back strong and hopefully get back on the winning track and move to 6-2, and maybe perhaps kind of be in the lead then, in a sense, if the Cowboys lose to the Cardinals this week. Maybe kind of be in command of the NFC East. They have a chance to do it. So I guess we'll wait and see if that happens this coming weekend. Everybody have a great rest of your week and get ready to bundle up this coming weekend as it gets colder. And we'll talk to you next week as always.